So, you know now the material to be characterized can be done with the help of X-ray basically in two ways. The X-ray photon comes and interact with the material, then partly reflected, then absorbed, and then rest is transmitted. Depending on the nature and characteristic of the material, all three will be different. Absorption coefficient, amount of energy absorbed by total energy incidented, that is the absorption coefficient, or it is called as, let us say, A C. No, it is the ratio of energy absorbed to energy incidented coefficient. It depends on the nature of the material, what kind of material is there. Similarly, reflection coefficient, energy reflected by energy incidented, and transmission coefficient is energy transmitted to energy incidented. These are three important parameters relevant to the material to be characterized. Right. So, the transmission coefficient, absorption coefficient and reflection coefficient, all of different materials are different, depends on what kind of atoms are involved in there. All the coefficients are different, and hence it is able to characterize a material on the basis of these three coefficients: absorption coefficient, reflection coefficient, transmission coefficient. Right. Now, partly to this absorption relation, here it basically involves that process called as scattering, right, which we are not detecting, but really it is going for the scattering phenomena out of that absorption. Right. Reflection, when it is coming back to the same media after interacting with the material, then absorption, how much it will absorb out of total energy incidented, and out of that absorption partly it goes as scattering, because it goes in all possible directions, the intensity is very low. So, it is although not detected, but goes for scattering phenomena there itself, that you know where is the scattering, right. So, X-ray photon scatters in that region called as the absorption. Then next is the transmission, whatever is not there, if it is not absorbed, not reflected, then it will come to the transmission side. If it is totally absorbed, partly reflected, then no transmission, right. So, depends on the material, what kind of material it is, all will vary: absorption coefficient, transmission coefficient and reflection coefficient, and hence by those three parameters one can characterize the material, what kind of material it is, out of absorption, out of reflection, out of transmission. Anyone one can use to characterize the same material, depends what kind of intensity you are dealing, whether it is reflection intensity or absorption intensity or transmission intensity, because intensity carries all the informations, right. All the information you are collecting, whether it may be scattering, diffraction, reflection, transmission, everywhere all the structural informations are there in intensity only. So, intensity plays very important part, because that carries the information. If you cannot analyze the intensity properly, you can never get the structure. So, if the structural informations are lost, it is because you are not able to interpret the intensity, or experimentally the intensity may not be detected properly. Two things may happen, right. If you do not have a good detector, then intensity will go wrong. So, if it is wrong, then you are losing some of the information about the structure, right. Or else if you are not able to analyze the intensity properly. To get the proper structure, the intensity must have to be analyzed in a proper way to understand the structure, or else you have to see whether the detection limit is all right or not, whether it is able to detect the intensities properly, may it be scattering, may it be diffraction, may it be reflection, may it be transmission or not. So, by both the ways you are losing the information about the structure. So, the intensity must be properly collected. If the intensity is not properly collected, then that means you are losing some of the information relevant to the structure of the material. Right? You may go for any experiment, scattering, diffraction, reflection, transmission, polarization, all the time intensity only plays the role, because all the structural parameters are there in the intensity. So, if the intensity is lost by any way, by your understanding or by the detection limit, that means you are losing the information about the structure present in the material. So, one should have to take proper care to collect proper intensity, right, because that is the carrier of information about the structure. And that is the reason why when you are thinking about the experiment, three things are very important in an experiment. First is the probe, then second is the, of course, second is the material to be characterized, that is obvious, material to be characterized, and the third is the detection. These three are important things for any experiment, right. So, probe means source of energy. What kind of energy you are utilizing as the source? May it be electric, magnetic, optic, any source of energy can be used as a probe depending on the experiment you are going to do, right. And when you are characterizing a material, it is obvious what kind of material you want to characterize. Then third is the detection limit. What is the detection? There should be a proper sensor to sense that intensity, whatever experiment it may be electricity, magnetism, optics, heat, any experiment. There must be a detector and there must be a probe, and they should be coherent with each other, means compatible. Compatibility is a must. If you are using a light source and you are using a thermal detector, no use. If you are using X-ray and using a ordinary light detector, useless. So, they must be compatible. What kind of source you are using, and accordingly you have to select your detector. If it is X-ray source, there must be an X-ray detector. If it is visible light, there should be a visible light detector. Our eye is a visible light detector, right. So, depending on the source or probe, you have to select what kind of detector is useful to collect the proper intensity. So, they should be compatible all the time for any experiment. Compatible means matching. They should match properly. If it is heat energy, then it must be a heat detector, thermal detector. If it is visible light, then it must be a visible light detector. That is called as compatibility. They should match with each other before going to perform any experiment. These are all experimental conditions you have to look after, which experiment you are doing, whether they are properly there or not. Material is, you do not bother about the material, because whatever material is there, that you know, right. But you are going to characterize with the help of these two, probe and detector, and all the time detector gives you the information in terms of intensity, whatever experiment it may be, but all the time it gives the information in terms of intensity, may it be electricity, may it be magnetism, may it be heat, may it be thermal, whatever it may be, all the time all the informations are carried in intensity. So, when you are collecting data, the data is indirectly tell about the intensity part only, that is the energy. Intensity means energy per unit area, when that area is kept perpendicular, right. That intensity only gives you the information about the material. So, detection is the device which will give you that kind of information, right. It may be relevant to light energy, may be electric, may be heat, any kind of energy. But if that intensity is not properly detected by the suitable detector, that means you are losing the information about the material, which is going to be characterized. So, then now what that intensity, I told you already, what is the intensity? Amount of energy received per unit area, but when the area is kept perpendicular. If the area is not perpendicular, it is not accepted to be the intensity, right. So, intensity means energy, right. What do you mean by intensity then? Energy, energy per unit area is the intensity, right. So, when a material is there, some form of energy is coming and interacting with that, again energy is going out, right. Energy comes, interact with the material, and then again energy is coming out. So, both the energies are equally important. What kind of energy you are using and what kind of energy you are getting after interaction with that material, right. Some form of energy must be there, that energy will come and interact with the material to be characterized, and after interaction again the energy will come out. So, when that energy is coming out, you are measuring that in terms of the intensity, right. So, if you need energy, because basically you know when you are telling I am learning physics, what is the physics? It is nothing but the interaction of matter and energy, nothing else, right. It is nothing but the interaction of matter and energy and relevant phenomena. So, all physics deals with that only. What is your material? What kind of energy is interacting and what happens there? That is the phenomena. May it be reflection, transmission, polarization, any phenomena comes in that way only, whatever you have learned in physics. And the similar way, when you are telling it is a probe, there must be source of energy, intensity is there obviously, and when it is interacting with the material, some phenomena goes on after interaction, and again the intensity or the energy is coming out. So, when the energy is coming out in terms of intensity, that is why intensity carries the information relevant to the material going to be characterized, right. If you are losing the energy, losing the intensity, that means you are losing the information about that material for which you are going to characterize. Once you are going to characterize means you should have to collect all the information that you need inside the material at atomic and molecular level with suitable radiation wavelength. If the intensity is not properly collected, that means you are losing information about that material, hence it cannot be properly characterized, right. Characterization means structure property relation, but unless you know the proper structure, how can you explain the property, right. And to understand the structure, intensity plays very important role. So, if the intensity is not collected properly, that means you are losing the information about the structure part, which is very important for characterization, because you are going to characterize means you are establishing a relation between fine structure and properties, how the structure is relevant to the property. So, if the structure is wrong, your explanation will relevant to property is also wrong. It is not properly characterized, right. The material is not properly characterized if the intensity is not properly detected. So, you should have to take proper care, because source is not in your hand, whatever source is there, it is there, machine gives the energy, that is all, right. You cannot change the source, whatever source is given in that experiment it is fixed, but you have to look after this intensity. Detector, what kind of detector you are using, whether it sends properly or not. If not, then intensity is not proper, and if intensity is not proper, then structure is not proper. Structural information coming out of the material is never proper. So, that is the reason why we should have to be very careful about the intensity, and in physics you can tell it is relevant to matter and energy or intensity, same thing, both are equal, because energy is the intensity, right. Energy per unit area or energy, matter energy interaction and a relevant phenomena, or matter intensity interaction or their phenomena. So, they are all under physics. So, how can you neglect this intensity? Every phenomena is relevant to intensity, all the phenomena, whatever branch it may be, all the time, every time you are dealing with that intensity, because that is the energy, and out of that energy only you are collecting the information after interaction. So, then now if I will tell you later on, this intensity is basically depends on which quantities. Suppose for example, if there is a material consisting of either atoms or molecules or ions, nothing else, whatever may be the material, may it be solid, liquid, gas, plasma, out of these three either atoms or molecules or ions, nothing else, right. So, then now if you deal with an atom, if it is material is an element, pure element, one kind of atoms are there, then obviously, so suppose for example, let us say the material is one such atom, let us say iron. Of course, I am not telling the isotopes of iron, it is again different. Iron has different isotopes. So, then now if the electron cloud is there around the nucleus, what will happen now? Suppose let us say you are using the X-ray photon, it comes and interact with that atom. Whatever it may be the material, if it is in elementary form or pure form, it must be one kind of atom. If it is compound, various kinds of atoms are involved there, right. Two kinds of materials you will get, either element or compound. If it is element, same kind of atoms, if it is compound, different kind of atoms. So, if you take an X-ray photon which is coming and interacting with that kind of atom, may it be in compound state or may be in elementary state, right. Obviously, it is interacting with the atom. So, when it interacts with the atom, what will happen? First, it will interact with the electron cloud, and that electron cloud is nothing but the characteristic of that atom. Every atom has individual electron cloud. Electron clouds are all different if you go from one atom to another atom. So, if the electron cloud, so then electron cloud will give you some phenomena when the photon is coming and interacting with it, right. As I told, when it interacts with this electron, what will happen there? It will scatter, like that all electrons will scatter, right. So, ultimately we will get a scattering pattern with reference to the electron cloud of that atom. So, if I will go from iron to let us say cobalt, it will never be same, because the electron cloud itself is different. So, if you go from one atom to another atom, the electron cloud is different and hence the scattering will be different. So, when you are going, let us say if I will combine, you are telling it is diffraction, because X-ray photon is being scattered by the electron, but diffracted from the atom. But ultimately the diffraction pattern comes from where? Electron cloud, or not? That diffraction pattern, whatever you are getting, is comes from electron cloud. So, this diffraction pattern, diffraction means instead of going in all possible directions like scattering, it is now restricted to few directions. You will get more intensity somewhere and less intensity in the other place. The intensity will never be uniform like scattering. If it is scattering, it goes in equal probability in all directions. But if it is diffraction, it is a directional property. It is restricted to few directions. In some direction it is maxima, in some other direction it is minima, again in terms of intensity, right. That is the only difference between scattering and diffraction. When it is diffraction, it is restricted direction. When it is scattering, equal probability in all directions. So, then now if you are analyzing the diffraction data, whatever it may be, let us say photon is coming and interacting with the atom and you are getting some diffraction pattern because of the electron cloud, right. The diffraction pattern depends on the electron cloud. So, ultimately this is nothing but the information coming from the electron cloud. So, if you understand the electron cloud, you know the atom, or not, indirectly. If you can understand out of the diffraction pattern what kind of electron cloud gives this diffraction pattern, then you understand what kind of atom is involved there. That is why it is indirect technique. We want to characterize or know what kind of atoms are involved there, may it be element, may it be compound. But that diffraction pattern in terms of intensity carries the information about what? From where that intensity came? Electron cloud, right. That means indirectly, if you analyze this diffraction pattern, that is the intensity distribution of diffraction pattern, it tells about the arrangement of electron cloud. It tells about the behavior of the electron cloud, and behavior of all elements, all atoms are different if you go to the periodic table. Every atom in the periodic table has its own electron cloud, that is their characteristic, they will never match with each other. all the elements in the periodic table has their own electron cloud. So, to characterize the atoms, if you know the diffraction pattern in terms of intensity distribution, then indirectly you are collecting the information about the electron cloud. And if you understand what that electron cloud is, then you can tell what kind of atom it is, and that is called as the structure factor. So, every atom has a structure factor relevant to the radiation wavelength, and X-ray structure factor for all the elements in the periodic table are available in the table that is called the International Table for Crystallography. There is a table, right. What kind of structure will give you what kind of intensity, or this structure factor. Intensity is relevant to structure factor. So, structure factor of each and every atom in the periodic table are different. So, if you know the structure factor, ultimately you are knowing the electron cloud arrangement, because that is relevant to the electron cloud. The scattering or diffraction is ultimately comes from the electron arrangement. So, when the electron arrangement is known, then you can know what kind of atom it is. If you can understand the electron cloud, then ultimately you are knowing what kind of atom it is, and hence you can characterize the material well. And therefore, may it be diffraction, may it be scattering, the information that you are collecting is never direct, all are indirect, right. All are indirect information, but if you tell about the image, it is direct, right. Whenever you are telling image, it is direct information, may it be with the help of visible light, invisible light does not matter, but once it is image, it is direct information. Like electron microscopy, it is direct information, that is imaging. But when you are telling scattering and diffraction, it is indirect technique, right. You are collecting the same information from the same material, but you are doing imaging and doing experiment with scattering are totally different, but information must be same, because you are going to characterize the same material, right. You are going to characterize the same material. You may do with electron microscopy, which is imaging direct technique, or you may do with the scattering or diffraction technique, but the material is same, and the imaging technique is no way superior, no way than scattering and diffraction. So, if you are doing imaging, it is, you may tell that I am doing something to estimate roughly, you may have rough idea, but not perfect idea. If you need the perfect idea about any material, then you should have to think about scattering and diffraction, because imaging is never and ever superior to scattering and diffraction. So, information collected from imaging is therefore no way superior than the information collected through scattering and diffraction, although it is indirect, right. Although it is indirect, but the information that you are collecting about the material will never be superior if it is imaging, never. So, that depends on the level of understanding, at what level you want to understand the material, right. At what level you understand about the material, whether you are going to atomic level or just on the surfacial level. So, as the small the particle you want to see, scattering is the best solution, right. Scattering is the best solution. If you go to nano, no way imaging will help you, no way. You may have rough idea, but cannot be perfect idea about that kind of particles which are called as the nanoparticles or nanoscale length order. If it is there in the material, it can never be good to go for imaging. But if you go for scattering, then obviously the information that you are collecting relevant to the nano order structure length is much more better. So, you have to select in what way you will proceed, because your job is to characterize the material, right. Every option is with you. Direct information you can collect, indirect information you can collect, but at what level you want to see the structure of the material. So, if your level is extremely small like nanometer length, then imaging will never be helpful, right. The better option is for scattering or diffraction, because diffraction is ultimately comes from scattering, because it is the phase relationship among the scattered radiations. So, then now that is the reason why you should be very careful about the intensity part whenever you are doing any experiment relevant to physics. Not necessarily I am telling this X-ray, everywhere, anywhere, because ultimately you are measuring the energy. Energy means intensity. Some energy comes, interacts with the material, some other energy is coming out, may it be same as the incident or different, but ultimately you are analyzing what kind of energy is coming out to know about the phenomena, and that is the intensity. So, therefore, when you are telling that there is a probe and there is a material and there is a detector, this is the probe, this is the detector, and this is the material to be characterized. So, when this probe is energy source, I am not telling the mechanical energy, I am telling quanta, photons, right. So, when this photon is going and interacting with the material, these phenomena are taking place simultaneously depending on the coefficients of that material. May it be reflected, transmitted, absorbed, and out of absorption again it goes for scattering and diffraction. So, the structural arrangement of the entities, entity means atoms or molecules or ions, in the material will be collected either by reflection or by absorption and hence scattering and diffraction or transmission. Where your intensity is good enough, that you have to look after. Whether the reflection intensity is good enough to analyze the structure, if yes, then you can go. If the intensity for scattering and diffraction is good enough to analyze the structure, you can go. If the intensity of the transmission is good enough, then also you can go. You have to select whether you will go for absorption or reflection or transmission, because these three things are must, right. Depending on the nature and behavior of the material, it will reflect, it will absorb, and it will transmit. But when you are telling it is reflection, absorption and transmission, where you are getting proper intensity. Absorption intensity is if good, then you can think about scattering and diffraction. If it is not good, should not think, find out other way, may it be reflection or transmission. You have to see first where you will get better intensity, better energy, by absorption phenomena, by reflection phenomena or transmission phenomena, and accordingly you have to select, I should go for that experiment. Accordingly you have to select whether I will go for scattering diffraction or I will go for reflection or I will go for transmission. So, basic role is the intensity, where you are getting better intensity, whether it is reflection or absorption or transmission, all are equally important. From anywhere you can collect the information about the same material, because same material is interacted by the photons, carries information about the same material. It may be reflection intensity, it may be absorption intensity, it may be transmission intensity. Ultimately, intensity carries the information, but how good it is carrying, that depends on the arrangement, behavior of the material, characteristic of the material, whether it is a good reflector or it is a good observer or it is a good transmitter, what kind of photon you are using. So, when it is interacting with the material, these three phenomena only will take place, nothing else, right. It will reflect depending on its reflection coefficient, it will absorb depending on its absorption coefficient, will transmit depending on its transmission coefficient. So, then again these coefficients are relevant to energy and hence intensity. So, if the intensity is not good, then obviously cannot collect the proper information, whatever it may be reflection, may be absorption, may be transmission. Right. As I told you, absorption also tells information about the structure, like this relation I is equal to what? I 0 e to the power minus mu t, right. T is the thickness of the material if this is the material, thickness of the material is T, if the incident photon is having intensity I 0 and after transmission then it comes to be I, then this is the relation how the intensity goes down because of absorption. Here also there is variation of intensity or the energy from where you are collecting information about the material from absorption. So, the linear absorption coefficient of different materials are different. It may be element, it may be compound. What kind of atoms are involved there and how they will absorb the radiation. So, that is why this mu is called as the linear absorption coefficient. Linear means it should go in straight line, but it really never happens like that. It never goes straight line, rather it is interacting with all neighbors. In that way, the mass absorption coefficient is very important, right. Mass absorption coefficient means mu by rho. This is your mass absorption coefficient. Rho is the density of the material. Mu is the linear absorption coefficient and rho is the density of the material. So, if you want to write the same expression, then I will be equal to how much? I 0 e to the power minus mu m, mass absorption coefficient, right. Then multiplied by rho multiplied by T, then it is all right, same thing or not. Divided and multiplied by rho, mu by rho is the mass absorption coefficient and again it is multiplied by this rho. So, rho for the material is constant or variable? Rho, density of the material, is obviously constant, right. And this mu by rho is also constant provided if it is similar kind of atoms. But if it is compound different kind, then accordingly you have to find out the weight percentage. If W1 is the weight percentage of one phase and W2 is the percentage of another phase, then what will happen? W1 into mu by rho 1 plus W2 into mu by rho 2, if there are two kinds of atoms, where W1 and W2 are the weight average, how much weight is there for that phase or that kind of atoms. So, like that if there are many, then you just go on adding like that, W1, W2, W3, W4, W5. So, any mixture, any compound you can find out. Sorry, again of course, it is mu 1, mu 2, mu 3, mu 4, go on, because the absorption coefficient, linear absorption coefficients are also different, right. So, this is one phase, this is another phase, this is another phase, like that there may be many phases. But ultimately, if you are knowing this mu 1 by rho 1, you are characterizing that phase out of absorption. Similarly, second phase, if it is there, third phase. So, accordingly, how many phases are there, and every phase is responsible for that kind of relation. So, this mass absorption coefficient is all the time good to know about the structure, but again that is from which experiment? Absorption, right. Absorption helps you to collect the information about the material, what kind of material is there. So, in the similar way, it may be reflection, it may be absorption, it may be transmission. Ultimately, you are collecting the information about the material structure at atomic and molecular level. So, if you are going to atomic and molecular level, then this visible light will never help you, because you cannot see the atoms, you cannot see the molecules. So, you cannot measure the non-order length in the material, but obviously it is there. Any material must have contain some non-order length, but unless you have a suitable technique with you, how to reach at that level order length, and for that different experiments are designed like XRD, small angle X-ray scattering, neutron diffraction, neutron small angle scattering, light small angle scattering, light diffraction. Light means I am telling laser, right, laser. So, everywhere there is light scattering, there is neutron scattering, there is X-ray scattering, depends on what kind of material you want to analyze, what order length you want to see, accordingly select your wavelength, may it be light, may it be neutron, may it be X-ray, but the phenomena are common, that is scattering and diffraction. If the probe is X-ray, you are telling it is XRD or small angle X-ray scattering. If the probe is neutron, it is neutron diffraction or small angle neutron scattering. If the probe is laser, light, then it is light diffraction or small angle light scattering. Everything depends on the order length that you want to see, what order length you want to see, and accordingly you have to select your probe, whether it is X-ray or it is neutron or it is light, but phenomena are all similar. So, therefore, when you are telling diffraction and scattering, you should be very careful about the probe, and why you are selecting the probe? Because you want to see that order length in the material, right. So, depending on what order length you want to see in the material, you have to select your probe, whether it is X-ray or it is neutron or it is light, but the phenomena is all same, may it be scattering or diffraction by light, neutron or X-ray. So, therefore, when you are thinking about the experimentation part relevant to characterize a material, you should be very thorough about all those things, otherwise the experiment will be useless. If you are not taking proper care to do experiment, it will be an useless experiment, you can never collect any information. So, before designing any experiment, you should keep in your mind everything in detail, what you require to do, why you are doing that experiment, first question, why you are doing that experiment, for what purpose. Then accordingly you should be careful about all those things, very, very careful, right. Otherwise, it is useless to do the experiment. Any experiment, it may be scattering, may be diffraction, may be any experiment, whatever it may be. So, unless you take proper care about all those things, no experiment has no value, it is wastage of time. So, do not waste your time, try to learn what to do and how to do, it is very, very important. Why you are doing, what kind of information you need, these two are very important for any experiment, and when you are taking all those things into account, then only you are doing the proper experiment, otherwise not. So, then now the another part is the, of course, the first you know about, I told you about the crystals, crystallography, and again of course, the crystallography depends on the probe. If it is X-ray, it is X-ray crystallography, if it is neutron, it is neutron crystallography, if it is light, electron, electron crystallography. But crystallography means establishing a relation between geometrical shape and size of the crystal relevant to its property, that is crystallography. Shape means geometrical shape, and size of a crystal relevant to the property is crystallography. How the geometrical shape and size is relevant to its properties, that is called as crystallography. So, if you want to study those with the help of X-ray probe, then it is X-ray crystallography. Same geometrical shape size with the help of X-ray, then it is X-ray crystallography. If it is neutron, neutron crystallography. If it is electron, electron crystallography, because the purpose is same, to understand the geometrical shape and size of the crystals. Unless you understand the shape and size, you can never tell the property of that kind of crystalline material, because properties are coming from that arrangement, geometrical shape and size. How it will be? If this is the shape and size, this is the property, that is crystallography. So, then now if I change the page. So, I will now bother about the X-ray crystallography, where the probe is X-ray, but one can think about the other sources also, because the procedure is all same, but sometimes it is essential to go for neutron other than X-ray, because suppose your atoms or elements are magnetic, right. Your material is magnetic, may it be ferro, dia, para, whatever it may be, or mixture of them, magnetic material. Then X-ray cannot help you, because X-ray is a neutral radiation. It will never be deflected by magnetic or electric field, right. No electromagnetic radiation can be deflected by magnetic or electric field. But you want to collect the information about the atom which is magnetic, then neutron diffraction or scattering is the best way, because neutron has magnetic movement and your atom is magnetic, which is also having magnetic movement. So, two magnetic movements are interacting, hence a new phenomena will come out, that is your scattering, called as neutron scattering or neutron diffraction. So, if you want to collect the magnetic study, then neutron source is the best source. X-ray cannot help you there, because the magnetic behavior of any material can never be identified by X-rays, because X-ray is a neutral probe. It do not have any magnetic movement, but neutron has magnetic movement. Neutron has magnetic movement, and when neutron goes and interact with the material which is again magnet, then it has magnetic movement and two magnetic moments are interacting and phenomena is going on. And after the phenomena, some intensity in terms of neutron will come out. If you analyze that intensity, you can know what kind of material it is. So, the magnetic characterization is usually done by neutron diffraction or neutron scattering, otherwise it is X-ray, right. If it is not magnetic, non-magnetic, then X-ray is best, but if it is magnetic, then X-ray cannot help you there. You should have to think about neutron. Neutron source. Of course, the difficulty is that neutron source is very tough to get. You can get a laboratory neutron source to do the undergraduate experiments, but to solve the research problems, these sources are not enough. You should have high intensity neutron flux, and the only source available in our country is the Dhruva reactor, right. Dhruva reactor at BARC. If you want to plan neutron diffraction, you have to stand in a long queue, because whole India is waiting for that. But if you want, you have to wait. It is open for scientific community, but for the nation. So, if anyone is planning to go for neutron diffraction, then if India, then obviously it is only source, Dhruva reactor at BARC. Then, so now if you come to the crystallography part, again I am telling X-ray crystallography with X-ray source. Then now, I told you between the difference between crystalline, amorphous and semicrystalline, right. Material can be classified in three different ways if it is solid, right. Crystalline, amorphous or semicrystalline. Semi means partly crystalline, partly amorphous. You see why they are important, because it may be a solid, but unless you understand whether it is crystalline solid or amorphous solid or semicrystalline solid, right, you cannot characterize it properly, because all the properties and behaviors are originated from that level, how the atomic arrangement is there. If it is crystal, how they are arranged, if it is amorphous, how they are arranged, if it is semicrystalline, how they are arranged. Unless you understand the arrangement of atoms and molecules and ions, you can never understand the property and behavior of that material, and hence characterization is wrong. So, you have to understand the arrangement of entities in any material, may it be crystalline, amorphous, semicrystalline, if it is solid, right. Solid can be categorized into three categories: crystalline solid, amorphous solid, semicrystalline solid. And in all those solids, you have to know what is the arrangement of the entities. Entities means may it be atom, molecule, ion. But if it is macromolecule, then it is macromolecular crystallography, like protein crystallography, cellulose crystallography. There it is not atom, not molecule, not ion, rather it is macromolecules, right. Protein macromolecule is relevant to protein crystallography. Cellulose macromolecules are relevant to cellulose crystallography. So, it depends what kind of structure you want to see. So, when you are thinking about these solids in general, then crystalline solids are classified into how many systems? That you might have read in solid state physics. How many systems are there? 7 systems. Which is having the best symmetry out of the 7? Least? Least. Only you know the best, but not the least. Triclinic. Because in case of cubic, A equal to B equal to C, alpha equal to beta equal to gamma equal to 90. That is why it is the having best symmetry. Right? Symmetry means similar structure in space. But if you go to the least one, A is not equal to B, not equal to C, alpha is not equal to beta, not equal to gamma, then there is no symmetry, least symmetry. And all others are in between, all rest 5. Right. So, the best is the cubic, least is the triclinic, and all other 5 are in between, means less than cubic, greater than triclinic. But again still they are different, now they are not same. Symmetry only varies, but structures are all different. Right. So, then now if you think about that kind of crystals, then now the most important part is the crystallographic axis. What do you mean by crystallographic axis? You might have learned about coordinate axis, might be spherical polar, Cartesian, whatever it may be, but they are coordinates. But can it be used for crystallography? No, cannot. The coordinate system for crystallography is totally different, and hence the axes are crystallographic axes. Right? The axes are crystallographic axes, and they are never named as x, y, z, rather they are named as A, B, C. The crystallographic axes are identified by not x, y, z like Cartesian coordinate system, rather by A, B, C vectors. So, now if you tell x, what is the general meaning of an axis? What do you mean by an axis? Let us say Cartesian coordinate. You know there are 3 axes mutually perpendicular to each other, x, y, z. Then what do you mean by that axis? Why you are calling that they are axes? Because in this direction there is certain property that is very important. That is why they are named as axes. Right? If you go in this direction, in the opposite direction, they have certain property. But if you go in y direction, again different than x. If you go in z direction, again different from both. So, if the direction have certain properties, then only you can select that direction as the axis. Right. Similarly, in crystals, there are certain directions in which one has to understand the properties. That is why there are crystallographic axes, and these directions are identified by A vector, B vector and C vector, and the interfacial angles corresponding to them is alpha, beta and gamma. For any crystal, lattice parameters are 6, 3 lattice parameters relevant to A in A axis, B in B axis, C in C axis. That is why they are named as A, B, C, because A, B, C are the primitives. Primitives because in the, if you tell it is A, means the repeated distance is there only after A. That is why it is A axis. You will get the same distance, same thing. Suppose here is an atom, at a distance of A you will get another atom, at a distance of A another atom, like that in that direction goes. So, that is called as A axis, which is your lattice parameter or primitive. That is why it is named as A axis, and similarly B and C, because they have the property that the same entity is there at that distance. If it is a direction, at distance of a, you will get the repeated units, atoms or molecules or ions. That is the property in that direction. Similarly, if it is b, at a distance of b, if it is c, at a distance of c. That is the property, that is why they are named as the axis, but it is crystallographic axis. Then now, so now the lattice parameters are basically a, b, c and alpha, beta, gamma, and you can identify now from this diagram what is a, b, c. So now if I will take a cubic system, if it is simple cubic, then it is like this. Let us say it is my origin, this is my a direction, b direction and c. Of course, it is equivalent to Cartesian coordinate system x, y, z, but you can never call it as Cartesian coordinate system. It is crystallographic axis named as a, b, c, because it deals with a crystal, right. Here these are equal and this angle is 90, right. A equal to b equal to c, alpha equal to beta equal to gamma equal to 90. If it is, then we can tell it is a cubic system, but if it is not, it cannot be cubic, some other out of 6 raised 6. So you have to establish a relation between these 6 parameters a, b, c, alpha, beta, gamma, and all systems are defined only by that. All 7 systems are distinguished from each other only by these parameters. That is why they are called as the lattice parameters. If you go from one system to another system, they will differ, right. So if it is cubic, this is the relation. If it is triclinic, something else. If it is hexagonal, again different. For all 7 systems, the relation among those lattice parameters are all different. That is why there are 7 systems, and all the crystals available in this universe can be categorized only in these 7, not more than that, right. All the crystalline systems available in this universe are put under only these 7 systems, but you have to identify which system it belongs to, whether it is cubic, hexagonal, tetragonal, triclinic, whatever system it may be, because if the system is different, its property is different, that is why, right. If the system is different, its property is different, because the atomic arrangement is different, and atomic arrangement only goes for the interaction, and that interaction gives the property, how they will interact. Therefore, you have to understand the lattice parameters to understand the crystal or the unit cell, and if you understand the unit cell, you can relate it to properties. That is why crystallography is very important. If it is a crystalline solid, you have to understand what kind of system it is, because their properties are all different, right. So next class we will go for the rest things.